Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm Lysha from Lysha Be Creative, and in today's tutorial we are doing the second video in my plaid series. So last week you guys know that I did an all glittered plaid, my first ever, and in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how you can get that gorgeous plaid look using Waterslide. So of course everything that I use in today's tutorial will be listed and linked in the description box below. Feel free to check that out for discount codes as well as links to all of my social media and of course my Facebook group, Lysha Be Creative Community. Lastly, if you haven't, please feel free to give this video a huge thumbs up as well as subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss when I post my next tutorial. So let's go ahead and jump right into the second video of our plaid series. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with today's tutorial. So last week you guys know that I showed you how to do a all glittered plaid, and so doing an all glittered plaid, although the most traditional way to do a plaid, can take quite a bit of time, and sometimes we want to get that gorgeous plaid look without so much time spent glittering. So I'm going to show you a super easy way that you can get that look today. So I am just putting a little bit of Mod Podge into a medicine cup and tinting my Mod Podge with a little bit of orange acrylic paint. So the glitter that I'm going to be using today is the Swamp from Peachy Olive Glitters. It's this gorgeous burnt orange color that I just feel like screams pumpkins to me. So I'm just going to take a paintbrush and my tinted Mod Podge and apply in sections my Mod Podge and then apply my glitter. With Mod Podge, of course, you want to make sure that you are getting a very even and thin coat on your cup, and you want to make sure that you're moving fast. Mod Podge does tend to dry quickly, so that's why I like to work in sections when I'm doing Mod Podge method. That way I can make sure that I'm not getting a bunch of bare spots all over my cup. I also recommend doing 2 coats of glitter when you're doing Mod Podge method. I find, at least for me, that when I am doing the Mod Podge method over epoxy method, I tend to have a lot of gaps and clumps and things that I just need to smooth and even out versus when I do epoxy method. But this is a perfectly great opportunity to use Mod Podge as the weather gets warm or gets colder, not warmer, I wish it was getting warmer, but gets colder and you have to maybe utilize your indoor space and not be able to go outside to spray paint your tumblers. So now that my tumbler is completely glittered, I'm just going to go back through and touch up any spots that may be a little bit bare or that I can see the spray paint under, and just make sure I have full coverage before I let this dry. Alright, so once I was done with my Mod Podge and applying my glitter, I did let that sit for a couple of hours before I applied 2 full coats of epoxy. So now we're going to move on to the Waterslide. So I am using, again, Hiipoo Waterslide that I did a review on my channel a few weeks back, which I will link that video here. I love using this Waterslide. It really is so easy to use, and although I love Waterslide and I don't usually have an issue, what I do love about this Waterslide is I feel it's even easier to use than any of the other brands that I've used in the past. So I really do love this Waterslide and how easy it is and how I don't have to worry about it cracking or giving me kind of any issues when I am going to apply it to my cup. So this plaid image, this black and white plaid image, I literally grabbed right from Google. So I went to images and I searched black and white plaid, and this image came up. I just printed it in Google Docs. So just use Google Docs versus using Cricut Design Space so that I had a larger area that I could print on to print this out. So I printed a full sheet of this Waterslide on my Hiipoo Waterslide paper, and I'm going to be using this to apply to my tumbler. So I did cut off obviously all the extra around the edges and did measure it on my cup to make sure I had enough to fit top to bottom. I do recommend you trimming it up a bit and not working with that full sheet. I just find that when I do try to work with a full sheet of Waterslide that I do tend to make mistakes, or I end up with a lot of wrinkles and things when I am attempting to apply my Waterslide if I don't trim it to fit my cup. Now, when you're trimming it to fit your cup, you obviously want to make sure you have a little bit of overlap on the top or bottom to give you a little wiggle room so that you can make sure that it is straight on your cup. So just like you guys have seen me do with lots of other tutorials that I have done water slides on, I am just going to slide that water slide onto my cup. So I use my hand to hold the water slide in place, and then gently pull that backing from the underside of that water slide paper. Working slow and in small sections is going to be the best way to make sure that you don't crack or rip your water slide. I also forgot to mention that anytime you are using Waterslide, if you are using an inkjet printer like I do, you do need to make sure that you seal your water slide. So I use clear gloss spray from Rust-Oleum, and I spray my water slide 3 full times before I cut and apply my water slide. So something that's very important to make sure that you don't crack your water slide. If you're using a laser printer, you don't need to seal. I have never personally used a laser printer, so I don't really know how much easier it is than using inkjet, but I do know that sealing 3 times with clear gloss spray on my water slide never gives me an issue. So just in those small sections, I'm just going to remove that backing and use my squeegee tool to squeeze out any of that extra water or any of the bubbles that may have happened in the process of applying my water slide. So you'll notice that I do have a slight gap that I'm not too worried about, just because I know I'm going to be doing some extra vinyl work on this cup, so I think I'll be able to hide that. And I did have a very, very small overlap on the bottom, and because it was so small, I just decided to make sure my silicone brush was super wet and just curl that over on the bottom as I was smoothing out any of the wrinkles and bubbles in my water slide. After I'm done smoothing out the bubbles and wrinkles, I'm just going to put this on my cup turner and let it sit for about an hour before I apply another coat of epoxy. Okay, so after my coat of epoxy, I have taken my cup off my turner. Off camera, which I forgot to record, I apologize. I did sand the top rim and anything on the bottom rim, and now I'm going to apply some extra vinyl lines. So I have some gold nail tape that I purchased from Amazon. It came in I think like a 24 pack of a bunch of different colors. And instead of going to Cricut and printing out vinyl lines, because I didn't have any gold, I really thought gold would be a great color for this. So I'm using this nail tape as my vinyl lines. So what I'm doing is just using my sharp craft knife and using this nail tape to create horizontal and vertical lines. So I'm starting with the vertical lines here, and I'm just putting them over what will be those darkest sections. So where the black portions of the buffalo plaid look are, that is where I am putting this gold nail tape. So I am just cutting strips of this nail tape and putting that right smack dab in the middle of those darkest sections to kind of just break up a little bit of this look and just kind of add a little bit of extra. So this is a cup that I'm going to leave as is. I'm not going to add a decal to this cup, and the reason why I'm not adding a decal to this cup is because I feel like plaid just is enough of a pattern in itself that sometimes when you add a decal, it can make things a little bit too busy. So once I'm done with my vertical lines, I'm just going to go around the entire cup and trim up all the extra on the top and bottom to make sure that my nail tape is secure to the cup and make sure I don't have any overhanging nail tape. So once I'm done with the trim up, I then will focus on doing the horizontal lines around the tumbler. Okay, so now that I've trimmed up the vertical lines, I'm going to move to the horizontal lines. So I'm going to do the exact same thing I did vertically, horizontally. So choosing the darkest sections of my cup, I'm going to apply that nail tape smack in the middle of those squares going all the way around the cup. This will give me 3 lines down the cups versus 2 if I had chose the lighter sections. So I went with using the darker sections so I could get an extra piece of nail tape on there. I just felt like the overall look in my head looked better using it over the darker squares. So I'm just putting that nail tape all the way around the tumbler and then trimming up where the 2 sections meet, leaving just a little bit of overlap. So once I'm done with this, I'm then going to move to sealing my vinyl. So before I can go into my final coats of epoxy, I'm going to seal my nail tape and make sure that it doesn't lift during my final coats of epoxy. So I am using Quick Coat from CC DIY. I will link that in the description box down below, as well as an alternative, which I also like to use for sealing my vinyls. So outside of using Quick Coat, which is typically what I use when I have it on hand, you can also use the Minwax brand that I pick up from Walmart called Acrylic, and it does the exact same thing as far as sealing your vinyl and making sure you don't have any lifting or anything crazy happen during those final coats of epoxy. So once I get this fully covered on those vinyl tape lines with my Quick Coat, I'm going to let my cup sit for just about 45 minutes or so to thoroughly make sure that my quick coat is dry. And then of course you guys know that I will add 2 final coats to this cup using Amazing Clear Cast Plus. So this is my go-to brand because it has that added UV protection to make sure that my cups last for a very long time. So as soon as this is sealed, goes back on the turner for those 2 coats, and here is the final reveal. As always, I hope you enjoyed the second part in the plaid series. If you did, give this video a huge thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you guys again next week.